Okay, this next gentleman, he has spoke before, but I hadn't. This was before my time, I guess, because I don't remember him. His name is Tom Kilbride. He's a Navy man. Oh, we'll get started. We'll work on one. Here,
Well, I mean,
grab that thing.
oh, yeah. Okay,
Yeah, you got to hold it about like an apple.
I feel what I have to say is not, I'm just going to tell stories about my career when I started. I told my Vietnam story before, but
You got some interesting stuff to talk about.
Well,
the Cuba deal.
I lost my train of thought there.
That's like the rest of us.
First of all, I was born here. My parents met in Seattle. I have to tell this. My family is Clarks out in New Gotland area. I'm related to all of them. My mother was a Clark. That gentleman took me back. Well, he did. He had a much more lively career than I did. But I was born here. My parents met in Seattle because, I have to tell this, my mother's brother and my father's cousin were in the Marine Corps in the islands, and they wrote to my parents, who happened to be in Seattle at the time. And then I came to be. I was born between VE and VJ days, so I'm not a baby boomer. I was born during the war. Small mind thing.
Okay.
I grew up, I didn't grow up here. When I was 8 months old, they took me to New York, because that's where my dad was from. And when I was, I forget how old, I joined the Navy in the reserves in Whitestone, New York. Excuse me. Seabees. A friend of mine said, Tom, I'm in the Seabees. So anyway, we went and joined this Sea.
Can you explain to him what a CB is? There's some people that they build things in the Navy, boats.
It went dead on me. Huh? You got me? Okay. We build, we fight. That's the motto of the Seabees. Well, little side story. I was, at one point in my career, I was sent to Rota, Spain. My battalion was. And the guys all come running up to, Tom, you got to meet this guy. He's from McPherson, because it's on your birth certificate. That's where I met Bill Martinson. I don't know if anybody knows the Martinsons, but Bill, called Meatball, lived here in McPherson. That's where I met Bill Martinson in 1964. Anyway, back to what I was getting. I was sitting home waiting to go on active duty, and President Kennedy was assassinated. 4 days later, I went up to Davisville, Rhode Island, to the CB base, joined my battalion. Didn't know what was going to happen given the circumstances with the president being assassinated and such. So anyway, they sent us, they sent us down the East Coast. They sent the whole battalion to Quantico, Virginia. Our job was to pick up a matting runway. It was called Operation Quick Kick. Pick up a matting runway that was gut-wrenching. I was fresh out of high school, and we're picking up these pieces of matting that are like 2 feet, 2.5 feet wide, and 20 feet long, and they're full of mud. They weighed a ton. And you pick them up, and one of the silly things guys did was the guy on the other end had lifted up higher so the mud ran to you. So if you were strong, you did okay. Otherwise, you were covered in mud. Anyway, we hauled this whole runway. We picked it all up. And I remember when we went into the chow hall there in Quantico, they had put brown paper down on the ground where we had to walk so we wouldn't get mud all over the place because we were all dripping mud. Anyway, we washed all that stuff, and then we did it so quick that they sent us to Cherry Point, another Marine base. And we spent 2 weeks in Cherry Point. I don't remember we did anything exciting there except get in trouble, but
That's exciting.
well, 4 of us were walking down the road, and this this Marine lieutenant walked by us, and he stopped. Halt, he said. He said, what outfit you in? We said, the 4th. The 4th what? The 4th Seabees. He said, he walked away. That sticks in my mind that this is all the stuff that comes up. Anyway, no, he just gave up on the Seabees. We weren't not the most military outfit in the world, and that always stuck in my mind. Yeah. Well, anyway, we did that. They said we did it too fast, so they sent us to Cherry Point. I don't know if I'd already said that. They sent us to Cherry Point, and we spent 2 weeks there waiting. I should go back to when we picked these pieces of matting up. We had an area where they took them and lined them up, and then they used fire hoses to wash the mud out of them. Because, like I said, they weighed a ton. They're all full of dirt. And then they put them in these racks to send them on. Well, anyway, so we went to Cherry Point for 2 weeks. Then they sent us down to Paris Island to lay the runway back down. So we did that. We laid, and the way that stuff was made, it was made of like a high-quality aluminum, and each piece interlocked to the piece in front of it. And that's how it all laid out. This came into play later in my career, but anyway, we went down and we laid down that runway. And I remember at that time, they had us living in tents on the runway. Actually, it wasn't really a running runway, but they had us in tents there. And that's when we found guys kept coming in with snakes, 4-foot rattlesnakes and stuff like this. Silly things. After we finished the runway, putting it down and all that, mind you, this is like two and something months into my career, we got sent to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. We went down on the LST Grant County. I don't know if anybody's ever been on a flat-bottomed LST. They are terrible. They roll and an experience, not a good one on this trip. When you went down the side of the ship, not in the cargo bay, they had these, I don't know what you call them, they were cut out holes that gave strength to the structure of the ship, but every so often there'd be like one from here to that table, and you'd have to step over it to keep going down the side of the ship. Well, the Marine coming down that had let go of lunch in the middle of one of them. I don't know if you've ever tried to walk and puke, but it doesn't work. And I'm sorry for bringing that up, but it popped in my head. But that was one of the experiences. We got down to Cuba, and this was at the tail end of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Kennedy was killed, and it's still going on. Guantanamo Bay is an interesting base. It fits the mouth of the bay. The bay goes up deeper in, but the Navy has on one side a small portion called Leeward Point. On the other side is the bigger base, which goes about, 5-6 miles deep, maybe even more. But the main base was right on the big side, so to speak. That was the main base. That's where there was a lot of functions there. Leeward Point, the other side, that was the airfield for it. And we were on, the Seabees had the joy of being all the way at the other end of the base. Like we were out there where nobody was. There was nothing but desert between us and the rest of the base. And one of the experiences I had there was, and I don't know why they did this, but they made us get full packing gear and march behind a tank plowing through cactus and brush. And in 100-something degree weather, full loaded, marching through there. I guess they thought we had to be military or something. I don't know. That was not a good experience. But they had horseback riding there, and there was a lot. Given that it was the Cuban Missile Crisis, the tail end, it was still very nice. The CB area, all of our equipment was in a big area like this, and right in the middle, I bring this up because it's a bar, there was a bar called the Red Dog. It was made out of cinder blocks, like with holes in it, staggered so that the air would go through it. And that's where I drank my first of many rum and cokes, called the Cuba Libre, served to me by a Cuban who they came on the base every night to take care of, they were the bartenders. It just seemed weird, but that was the first Cuba Libre I ever drank. Drank a lot since. But one night, and I don't know where this came from, again, they were trying to be military with us. We weren't super military. They put us, they brought us into the watch office, the SP office, what do you call it, and they gave us an M14 with a loaded clip. This became important because they counted them when you came back. And they sent us out to this crevasse, and we sat on one side, and about from here to the bar was the other side. The Cubans were all sitting over there in their watchtowers, and we were in our watchtowers, and we just sort of sat and looked at each other in the middle of the night. Never figured out what that was all about, because in between, it was like a 150-foot drop. There was nothing down there. That was the height of something, I don't know. I just remember it because we used to watch him like cigarettes. I could get him from here, things like that. Same thing with us. When we lit cigarettes, we started ducking because it was just silliness. There was no declared war or anything like that. It was, like I say, the tail end of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I hadn't, a thing that happened to me recently, I haven't heard from people back then, 1984, when I met 64, when I met Bill Martinson, a guy I was in the Navy with. I was sitting in front of my computer here about 6 months ago, and he called me, or he came up online and he says, "Tom, you remember me, Ray from MTV?" That kind of freaked me out because I hadn't talked to any of these people in 50 years, or however many years. And not a minute later, somebody else from the West Coast got in touch with me. This was within a half hour, literally sitting in front of my computer. I've told this story to a bunch of people. I started looking up, waiting for the ceiling to fall, because this is like two extremes of my life in a half an hour. One from 1980 and one from 1964 on different coasts. That was some kind of a phenomenon to me. Anyway. Yeah, well, that's what I was worried. Like I say, I looked up. I was wondering if the ceiling was going to collapse on me. Huh? Oh, he's got his mic back. Anyway, I don't have near the heartfelt stories that the other gentleman had. I was lucky. I've been to all those places. I was in July. I told the story the last time. I'm on the back of that sheet. I spoke once here before about my experiences flying into July and different stuff like that. But my military experience was tough, but it was good. And like this gentleman, one thing that I regret, I came home here. I got out of the Navy in Long Beach and I drove here. And I was visiting with my grandpa, Carl Clark, on Main Street during the May Day parade. And he turned to these other folks and he said, "This is my grandson. He just came back from Vietnam." Well, it made me feel like I was something they wanted to scrape out from underneath their fingernails, It disrespected him, and it always bothered me that happened. He was a farmer here his whole life. My family, like I say, the Clarks out in Gotland, he was one of them. It always bothered me. Still sticks in my mind. It's the only reason that I have Vietnam veteran license plates on my vehicles. Kind of my way of giving it back, so to speak, for the way he was mistreated. He didn't deserve that. the family's been here since 1871. You know, they're practically founding fathers, so to speak.
So if you were going to talk to some high school kids, what would you tell them about the military?
Actually, when I lived here in the 80s, and I had a young man call me from down the block, actually the corner of Walnut and First Street, and he asked me, you know, he had the choice to go to the Merchant Marine Academy, which I was a Merchant Marine officer, and the military, the Air Force Academy. And I told him if he wanted a wonderful career to go to the Air Force Academy, because that's just the way I felt at the time. I was doing nice. I mean, I was making good money and all that, but a military career would have been my choice if I'd have had one. I didn't when I first started. I achieved more later in life.
Yeah, you learn more as life went on.
Yes.
Any questions for this gentleman?
See, I told you I was boring.
I mean,
Fireman, no. No. My brother, I have a brother here. He used to run GT Auto. He was in GT Auto with Troy. He sold that and moved on. I don't have a brother that was a fireman, though. I have a brother that was on a minesweeper. Anyway, I'm kind of at a loss for words here. I told the story about Cuba because that was like the beginning of my career. I later went to Spain, and we built in Rota, Spain in '64 when I met Bill Martinson. My battalion was in there to build base housing. There was no housing there. And, oh God, we built tons. Prefabricated houses that came from the United States on ships. And, oh, I'm going on to another. Anyway, the thing that sticks in mind, they had the thing called a Pettibone forklift. It has great big tires, 4 of them, and it's made to lift these heavy weights. And it always tickled me whenever the bathroom units come in. They weighed 6,000 pounds, and then forklifts would be up in the air like this and dragging them across the place. But all of the house, they all came prefab, and then we put them together, and that's where all that housing in Rota came from. MCB4. I don't think I ever said that. MCB4 was my battalion. We put them in.
how many countries did you go to?
Cuba, Spain, South Vietnam. That's pretty much
What do you
it.
think of Spain? Did they treat you good there?
Yeah, Spain was all right. That was. Oh.
Ding
Well,
dong.
it was a military base. We had a good time there. I mean, we were building the housing and stuff. They never treated us bad. Rota is a big base in Spain, and still is, as far as I know. I actually recently saw something about. See, we lived in Quonset huts. I don't know if any of you know what a Quonset hut is. It's them half-barrel looking buildings, and that's. I just saw a thing recently. That's still the housing in Rota, Spain, and that was many years ago. I told my story about flying into Vietnam on a previous occasion. I won't go there with that. That was. It was well received, I might say, mainly because I thought it was humorous more than it wasn't anything terrible. I had a great time. I was in for 30 months. I was due to get out in November of '65. In order to go to Vietnam, I had to extend 6 months. So that's how I got to Vietnam and ended up leaving in May of '66. I wanted to see what the heck was going on. Not unfortunately like this. I mean, not like this previous gentleman who had hard experiences. Mine was more calm than that, I would say. It was a good career.
Glad you did it.
Oh yeah, I never regret it. I have no reason to regret it. I had a
I've
good
never
time.
talked with anybody that was in the military that hated it. They learned something from it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're going to have your bad times, no doubt about that, but you made a lot of good friends. You learned a lot, and you always learned to say yes, sir, if you didn't do anything else. Stand with your arms down and say yes, sir, don't do anything else. You know, stuff like that, you learned real quick. And the sad part is nowadays, well, I'm not going to get into the spiel about what's happening with the generations now, but it's not good. I gave this example, and this is something I seen my wife and I told some of the people earlier. We went to a movie Saturday night, or Saturday, and the previews to a movie was one that was called Toy Story 5. It talked about little kids playing with iPads instead of toys. They said what's happening to the toy industry, it's going broke. Because kids don't play with toys no more. Everything's got to be electronic. Some of the kids don't even ride a bicycle no because it doesn't have a battery on it, which is sad. So anyway, that's the end of my spiel there.
Well, a lot of, I just saw on, I told a story to it like a minute ago. I saw a thing on YouTube. A lady said, if your mother yelled out the window, in my case, Thomas Michael Kilbride, you were in trouble. The other one was, if you didn't answer and get home right away, you didn't eat. And the street lights were you see. Kids nowadays, I pray for them because there's the electronics is taking over the ability to think or be people. I mean, this AI, all that's all going to hurt us in the long run. We need to get back to where people think and people do, not machines. And to me, the stupidest statement in the world that I hear when I'm looking at these YouTube things is, did you get that on video? I mean, how pathetic are we that you know what I mean? That's what you're worried about? That's wrong. We're losing our kids. Not mine, but we're losing kids that don't think for themselves and don't do for themselves and have everything like this. I had a kid the other day stumbled out in front of my house because he was looking at his damn iPhone. That's not the answer. And we just have to pray it gets better.
Got any questions for anybody? Not me.
Oh, I went back. Oh, I went back to New York. Well, I take that back. Let me think here a minute. You got me here. Oh, I did eventually get back to New York. I worked for Railway Express Agency till they went out of business, and I was a telephone lineman. I spliced cables in the underground. I did a whole lot of stuff, and then my dad was very big in the VFW in Whitestone, New York, and a guy that I was a member too, and he said his son was in this school in Baltimore where they train you to be an engineer on ships, and they pay for everything. Actually, they pay you $200 a month. So I went and did that. And in 1974, I became a third engineer, and I sailed for 33 years. 33 years I sailed on ships. My last job, I was first engineer, ran the engine room on the LNG Libra, which carried liquefied natural gas from Sumatra and Borneo to Japan. Did that, well, I did from third to first engineer, I did all those jobs on the ship for, like I say, 32 years. 22 with that company, 32 in the industry in general. Been all over the world, saw Kong Island. That's a small. Captain Dan Spence, who I was the captain on one of my ships, the Gemini, he said he was in Manila in 1933 and met the crew, or met the cast of King Kong. And so he knew where Kong Island was. I'm known for telling this story. And so one night at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up to see Kong Island as we sailed through the Sulu Sea to see where it was and everything. And It's funny the things you do, but I can still see it in my mind's eye. It was pitch dark, but Kong Island, in the movie, you see it's a big rock island like this. It actually faces Mindanao, and that's where they filmed it at a distance from. But it's a small island, and its name is Bongao in the Tawi-Tawi group off of the southern western end of the Philippines.
Any more questions? Kathy?
Well, not that I'm trying to put a plug in for anything, but did you go on the honor flight?
No.
You need to do that, Tom. Now I have a new person to pester.
Well, I'll tell you why. Many years back, they brought the mini Vietnam Memorial here. And I grew up with a lot of guys in the projects in New York, and I asked about them. The person that brought the thing here, you could ask about where somebody was on the list, and they related 3 guys that I grew up with. One of them, when I was in July, one of them, Maurice Noel, a young black man, was killed near me in Quang Ngai, and for a description of how he died, they said blown up. And 2 other guys, the same, Joe Spinella, there's a square named after him in Queens. There's a triangle, the way the roads come in up there, and that's the name of Spinella Triangle. These are guys I grew up and I knew well, and I was a mess. I was crying the whole damn time I looked at that. I don't normally cry, but that upset me, and I've been to Washington, D.C. I went to school in Baltimore, so I was all over up in that area. I don't really need to go again. I chose not to go again when it was offered to me previously. Just because of that. I mean.
Hang on, they're getting a microphone for. Here you go.
Can the speakers introduce the family that are here with them? We didn't get to hear about the families that are here with the speakers. We normally do.
Oh, with me?
Both.
Mary?
Both speakers.
Oh, both speakers. I'm sorry. Sir?
Sorry about that.
Here you go. Hold on.
Your wife's giving you instructions. Did you catch that? She's pointing at you.
This is Nancy, and she did probably save my life. 56 years.
Yep.
And I have to say, this is my favorite cousin. This is Dean Smith, and most of you probably know it, and his wife Janet, and they're both from El Dorado. And why they came to Manhattan or McPherson?
It's close.
I can see why, because you guys have a great club here, and you have done a great job, and really appreciate the time here. And food was great, and the drinks were nice too. But thank you.
You bet. Okay, if nobody else has any more questions, that's it for tonight. And if you know of anybody who wants to speak. Oh, your family. I'm sorry. Where are they at?
Mary Scott.
Mary. Hey, yeah, Mary. Sorry,
Scott.
Mary.
Mary's a longtime member around here and stuff, and she's my cousin.
She helps us out here at family night.
Yeah.
She's the one that tears them up at the door if they don't have a ticket.
And her husband was in the motorcycle group and stuff like that.
Okay.
He was a good guy. Unfortunately, he passed away from things that happened to him in Vietnam from Agent Orange and such. Anyway, she's a Clark. We're from the Clark bunch out of New Gotland. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming.